the people. Sorry, guys. I just did a whole introduction, and Joe just did a whole explanation of how I got into this whole subject, and I wasn't actually live because I was doing the whole countdown thing, and I thought that automatically put me into a live status. So I'm not live. But tonight we have Joe and Molly from Western New York Bigfoot Investigation Group. I said that right. And
Yes.
so now we're live, and Joe is going to give you a quick. He's already done this, and I feel bad, but he's
That's
going to
all
give
right.
you a quick intro. Now, he also had a pretty intense encounter, which we're going to go over. But I want to just go over how I'm going to bring Molly on too. Molly, you ready? Yes, she's ready. There you are. So I'm just going to let Joe quickly run over how he got into this whole Bigfoot thing because he's already done it, and I wasn't live. So sorry about that, guys.
No, that's okay. No, like I said, I was just 14 years old. I was out squirrel hunting one day and walking along this creek called Keshequa Creek here in New York, where I grew up, and found a footprint. And I just mentioned to you just now before we went into this, I originally thought it was a bear print from a distance because only half of it really was really, really indelible, and that was the front half because it was in some softer strata than the heel. The heel was still on kind of like some rocky area at the edge of the creek, and it made an imprint. So I'm looking at this as I got up on it. I said, holy cow, that's a human footprint. Really big human. So I'm thinking, I don't know who's walking around barefoot out here. So, and then the rest of them, there was a trackway, but the rest of them were just depressions, not really defined in the grass leading up to the tree line. So I followed them into the tree line, and of course, once I got in the woods, I lost them fairly quickly. So I basically forgot about it at the time for the time being, and I was hunting squirrel, and I heard one barking off in the distance, and so I started heading off in the direction I was hearing this bark come from, the squirrel bark. And I got into this section of pines, and right underneath this, and I mean right next to it was this there was this huge pine tree, and right at the base of this huge pine tree was like what looked like at first just this huge pile of pine boughs, old pine boughs. And it was so big, I thought, God, how could all those fall out of that tree and there still be branches on that pine tree, right? And so as I got closer, I'm noticing, I'm like, well, there's like ferns, there were ferns interwoven into it, fern fronds. Excuse me. And as I'm getting closer, I'm like, I smell this smell, and I could see, I'm like, oh, this isn't a pile. This is something that somebody built, and immediately my mind goes back to that footprint by the creek. And I thought, oh, holy crap, man, maybe this whoever that big hermit was, maybe this is where he lives. He built this. And I could smell that smell. And like I explained to you, the smell, I've heard lots of people say different things about smell that they smell. It was a very strong, pungent odor, and the best I can describe it as is dirty socks and urine. Which
or just
further
sleeping with you.
Okay, was that necessary?
Okay, sorry.
So
just helping the people understand what the smell was like.
I'm sure.
Okay.
So now I lost my train of thought.
That's a shame.
So anyway, so that further strengthened my idea that it was a big smelly hermit. Sasquatch wasn't crossing my mind at all. It wasn't until I saw In Search Of, which a lot of researchers say that's what got them started. And I can understand why. That was a really popular show.
I'm going to have to watch it. I've never seen it.
Yeah, that one was a good episode. They talk about the Loch Ness Monster, the Yeti, and Bigfoot and all that.
I remember it. And I don't watch Bigfoot stuff, but I like, mostly because I like Star Trek, so I like Leonard Nimoy. So that's like why I watched it.
Yeah.
And I was
But that's
7, so
that's
I was
that's basically what
whoever
got me.
around me made me watch it, right?
That's what basically got me started. Because I thought then, as soon as I saw that, 14 years old, I'm like, hey, maybe that wasn't a big smelly hermit. Maybe that's actually a Sasquatch, and they exist in New York. And so that's what really started me. And I've been investigating it pretty much ever since. You know.
Now, both of you guys go out together and camp overnight and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, she'll
Usually.
camp when she can. Yeah, when she can,
If I
she goes
can.
camping with me.
And what kind of investigation methods do you use? Or do you just go out there and camp and hopefully something comes to you?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean,
He usually freaks me out, and then I sit in the tent like afraid, asking, "What's that noise? What's that noise?" That's usually our investigation method. is he freaks me out. Like I think
well,
that's his goal.
I mean, there's a little more to it, and that's not
No,
the
I'm
goal.
pretty sure it's like,
Um,
like, did you hear
I
that?
mean,
For
there's
what?
there's a little more to it than just that. I mean, I do actually investigate the area. Like this past time we went camping out at this place called Vandermark. There was a report that was given to me by this firefighter. That there were some college kids that were in there partying one night. There's this road that just dead ends, and there's a circle. And in the middle of that circle, at the end of that road, there's a place where you could see where people have had bonfires there, right? So apparently these kids were back there partying one night, and they all got scared out and took off out of the area because there was something big and bipedal and hairy that they say chased them out of there. So basically I was there just to investigate that, to see if there was any validity to that story, if there were any Sasquatch in that area. So I do go out and I investigate the area and see if I can find any kind of sign whatsoever that there may be Sasquatch in the area, or have been Sasquatch in the area, which pretty much the most important thing is footprints. If I find that, then now, because so much of the other stuff is really just hypothesis, but a footprint is pretty solid evidence,
And we didn't find any footprints last time.
No, I didn't see any. I took a nice
There's a lot
little
of
trip.
wood knocking, and which
Right, there was wood
listen,
knocks and thumps.
admittedly, it was weird sounding to me. I was standing at the end of the car trying to get something out of the car, and I heard like knock, 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 and it wasn't just like, because I had you like later like go over and grab like a big branch and like bang it against a tree, and it was a totally different sound. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, hello,
Yeah.
what is that? And it wasn't like a tree branch falling and hitting something on the way down. I mean, it was admittedly a different noise.
Yeah, there were definitely knocks and thumps and stuff that may corroborate a little bit
There were bumps in the night.
If you want to say that definitely Sasquatch does that, which I can't yet. I can. That's a good hypothesis. I can hypothesize that maybe those were Sasquatch making those noises, but I didn't see anything. All I could do was hear them. Well, no, there's several reasons, Molly, why people can go there and do go there, and it's because some of that stuff has been known to be behavior in other primate species. So if they do it, would Sasquatch do it? Maybe they would. Maybe they would. That's why I say.
Well, I would also say to you then, like, okay, maybe an alien came down and was banging on the tree like that, because maybe
that's getting a little.
Oh, so that's far fetched for you.
When's the last time you heard of wood knocks associated with aliens?
Well, I don't know.
I mean, let's not get ridiculous.
I don't think it's ridiculous at all. I think it's like a solid line.
I don't think so.
Ridiculous of Bigfoot alien. Like, to me, they're both like you could do a solid line to either.
Well,
Sorry.
if
No.
there is if there is Bigfoot, then it would be more likely to be him because other primates do it, is what he's saying, right?
Fair
Right.
enough.
And I do think there
There
are
it goes.
aliens. I do think there are aliens. I just don't think that they would
Would not.
knock. I don't think I would think they'd have more advanced ways of communicating.
Yeah. But
I think
but yeah,
if
so
I was an
that's that.
alien, I'd come down here and I'd do crap like that to freak everybody out. If I was
Now,
advanced,
I mean, and
I like mess
also,
with people.
I mean, I can hypothesize that because you know, me, like a lot of other people, I actually know that this species does exist.
Right.
Now, I don't know what they do all day long with their time. I haven't figured that out yet. But I know that they're there.
Yeah,
So-
that's one thing that really gets me is what do they do with their time apart from hunt? I mean, what do they do during the day when they're hanging out and
Right.
you know? I try to picture it in my head. I mean, do they just sit in the cave and grunt at each other,
Right.
or is it all just food? Is it all
Yeah.
just like 24/7 looking for food?
Well, if you're
And
that
around
big, you're gonna
here, there's not a lot
you're
of
gonna
caves.
Require a lot of sustenance, so it's
Right.
got to be all food.
Well, not
think about, like,
necessarily.
Think
Not
about elephants.
necessarily.
They're like,
Look, if they're what I hypothesize, and they belong to the Homo genus, and they're somewhere along in the line of evolution, and like I say, it's all hypothesis right now of mine, which cannot be proven. I somehow have a feeling, and it's only because of what I've seen. I have a feeling that they are perhaps descended or stem from the same common ancestor that we had with people. I mean, with chimpanzees. And so I think Sasquatch they're not like sharks. They're not constantly on the hunt for food. They have to eat and move and stuff like that. They're a primate. So they probably eat when they're hungry and they hunt when they're hungry. And other than that, maybe, I don't know, who knows? Maybe they just lay around all day and, play Uno or something. I don't know.
I'm with
Um,
Ao Tiora. The males are all about food and sex. And I don't know if I said that right. My apologies to Ao Tiora.
No, that's right. You said it right.
I don't think they're sitting around thinking about Play-Doh. I think they're all about food and sex, survival of the species.
Like I say, it's all pretty much hypothesis right now until somebody ends up in a Jane Goodall or Diane Fossey situation with this species, which I'm not even sure is possible, because if they are as intelligent as what I think they are, and they are some even close to what I hypothesize they are, then that's not going to happen. Now, if they were truly just some kind of bipedal ape, maybe you could find that possible because it was done with chimpanzees and gorillas. If Sasquatch is closer or is a human species of some sort, you're not going to get that kind of situation with them because they generally want to stay the hell away from us. It's only their curiosity which brings them around most of the time.
So, I mean, if they are anything like us, they must have time for leisure and stuff like that. There must be something like that
I think so.
in the mix. But what would they do to keep their mind occupied? That's what trips me up.
Bocce. Don't you think?
Well,
Bocce?
You know what? I think
Apart from
maybe
making structures, maybe.
Exactly. There you go. And that's what I was going to say, Cornell. Maybe because, I mean, for the most part with me on the structures, look, there is a lot of stuff out there that nature does that just ends up looking weird. But there are times I won't dismiss all structures,
Right.
because I've found some that I just can't explain by random act of nature. So maybe they do. Maybe that's what they do for intelligence. The time that I saw this thing, it looked like, I said, well, what the hell is it? Sasquatch? Just Sasquatch wood art. I mean, it's like these tree bends that were stuck in the ground. Nature doesn't do that. Snow White doesn't bend a tree and stick it in the ground 2 to 3 inches to keep it bent, and when you see a row of those in threes, for all I know, maybe it was a Bigfoot with some time on his hands. Could people do it? Sure. I don't know why they would do it or why they would be in the area I saw it at doing it, but maybe it was a Sasquatch had time on his hands and thought, well, let's see what I can do. Look, that looks pretty. I don't know. And I showed pictures of this one weird structure. To me, it looked, all I can say is like maybe a drying rack. Now, a person, again, could have built it, but it was definitely built by something with hands. So you only got two choices, a person or Sasquatch. And I don't know why a person would have done it, but then again. So maybe that's what they do with their, and I think, what, sometimes I think maybe with their spare time, I think sometimes they allow their curiosity about us to take over and they decide, well, let's go mess with these people for a little bit and see what they're all about.
Let's see if we can stealthily creep up on them and watch what they're doing.
Right. Or let's see if we can scare them.
And throw rocks at them.
So, Molly, where do you come in with this? You seem to be a bit more skeptical than Joe, even though he is pretty skeptical. But are you more skeptical than him?
Oh, absolutely.
But you believe in them. When you believe Joe's encounter, though.
I believe Joe has seen something that he thought was a Bigfoot. I believe my husband saw something.
Okay. So
was it a Bigfoot? No, I just don't. It's not there for me. There's not enough evidence or anything there for me at all.
Seeing is believing. If you go out
enough, I believe in
enough,
aliens more than I believe in Bigfoot. How about that?
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, aliens is. I think it's well, I can't say 100%, but now, Joe, do you want to get into your encounter? How long ago did this happen?
Well, it was
450 years ago when he was a young man.
Was not. It was last August. Somewhere around in there.
Oh, are you talking about Rasta? Yeah.
Yeah, Rasta.
It was more like the spring. It was one of the times during the pandemic.
Earlier? But it wasn't cold out.
Yourself because you and I went out in August, and that was the only time we camped last year, and it was
not cold though.
No, it was like June.
It was not cold when it happened. Yeah. No, I think it was close to July. It was closer in there.
Agreed.
I thought it was August, but
do you want to paint us a picture then of what was going on and like just paint the whole, because nobody's heard this unless they go onto your channel. I couldn't find it though, but.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, there's just this particular area that we like to camp in, called Palmer's Pond. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not one of those guys that keep everywhere that I go secret and all this other stuff. And that's fine. If that's what other people want to do, fine. I don't keep it secret. Because people are going to go there whether I tell them where I'm going. You know what I'm saying? So it's this place we like to camp at all the time. And I started going there just because of old reports in that area of Sasquatch sightings in the past. And I thought, well, if they'd been there once, they'd probably go there again, right? And I think it just started because I found some prints that I thought, hey, it's a good possibility that these could be Sasquatch prints. I haven't found a really good, really just totally clear one, The one that I did find, that I did try to cast, it didn't bring out a lot of detail, but the ear markers for it to be a Sasquatch print were there. So it was by this tree. I just happened to be out there one day looking around, and I went into this, in the area that I was in, there had been some rain, and so it was kind of, I don't want to say swampy, but there was a couple of inches of water on the ground, and it was very, very, very watery, basically. And I saw this one print, and I said, holy cow, that looks like a footprint. And it was big. It was 14 and a half inches long. It's on my page, as a matter of fact. It was about 14 and a half inches long. It was really wide, right next to this tree. And I could see like there were other imprints up ahead. They were all underwater, basically, where it looked like something had been kind of walking around a little bit, you know, like trying to decide which way it was going to go. And they matched the same size this thing was. So I thought, wow, man, I wish I could cast this to see if I could bring out any definition in it, because it was actually really deep. And that's because the ground was so soft, and it was actually filled with water. And I found out that plaster of Paris will actually set up in water. It just takes a lot longer for it to do so. So anyway, long story short, I casted this footprint, and I had left my hiking stick. I have a hiking stick. I haven't taken it with me most of the time now, but I used to take it all the time. And I had my hiking stick, and I had leaned it against a tree. Well, after I had gotten that cast out, I went back to my Jeep and got in, started driving away. And I got about, I don't know, a good distance away and thought, crap, I left my hiking stick. And I thought, that's okay. I'm going to be back out here again anyway, so I'll just get it then. I know nobody's going to find it, you know, not where it's at. There's no way.
Although it is painted bright green.
No, it's not. It's brown.
Oh,
You're thinking of my other walking stick.
Oh, the other walking stick. My apologies.
I used to have. But anyway, so I left it out there. So one day I'm walking back there, and my intention was, okay, I'm going to go get it now. And this was about a week. I'd say a week later, I guess. And so I go out there to get it, and I'm walking down this path that I had taken to get into there. And I got by this. I was closing in on this tree. Now this, I don't associate this with Sasquatch, but it's just something weird that I noticed. There was a tree, and it's a hardwood tree, and it's forks, right? Pretty high up. And within that fork of that tree were all these old pine boughs. And the way they were arranged was just really weird. And I'm looking around, and I don't really see any pine trees near this one, near this hardwood tree, to where they would just fall into that notch and get stacked up. So it's just something weird. And so I'm nearing that tree, and I'd actually looked over in that direction, didn't see nothing. Of course, I was concentrating on that, and I'm still looking, and I was looking at it. So as I'm going towards that, looking at that, up ahead of me, a very short distance away, maybe 20 feet, I'd say, apparently there was this deer laying in this long grass. I did not see the deer, and I was looking at one time, you know, as I'm walking, I'm looking straight ahead. Didn't see the deer at all. Very well camouflaged it was. But it jumped up out of the grass and took off to my left. Just exploded out and took off to the left. Scared the living shit out of me because I wasn't expecting it. Just very startled me. Saw it was a deer, and I looked to the left. All this happened within seconds. I looked to the left, and all this happened all at once. I hear this scream, just like ungodly scream from my right, and something hits that tree, and another scream, and I snap my head around, and about 40 feet away, and I know you said you can't deal in yards.
No, it really confuses me. So that's about 10.
I can't do it.
But just
either.
to let you know, 40 feet is about 15 yards. Okay,
Right.
Because there's 3 foot to a yard. So about 40 feet away, there it is. He's standing right there, about 40 feet away in
And
the
I
tree.
can only do yards because I think of a football field. That's it.
Oh.
When you watch football, American football,
Right.
I think about the yard lines, and then I go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now I know how much that is.
So
Go
yeah,
ahead.
and
Go ahead, Joseph.
so he's standing right there, looking at me. And for a second, and this encounter seemed like it lasted a long time, but in reality, it probably didn't last very long at all. I had to be like, I know I took a sharp intake of breath, because all of a sudden there it is. And I'm like, I honestly wasn't registering it at first. I'm like, holy crap. And then I realized, am I really, and I'm like, no, I'm really seeing this. And he's standing there just staring at me, not making a sound or a movement. He's just standing there breathing, looking at me. And he had to have been 7.5 foot tall. He was at least about a foot and a half taller than I was. Covered in dark hair. I say black. It was a little bit overcast that day. It wasn't sunny. So I say black. It may have, the overcast day may have made his hair look darker than it was. Maybe he was dark brown, but very dark in color, and just huge. Shoulders, just like, I don't know, probably looked like they were 10 feet wide, but in reality, probably 3 feet across at the shoulder. Massive chest. Hair on his head was longer than anywhere else on his body. Hair on his head hung down to the shoulders. He didn't have, of course, much of a neck, hung down to his shoulders. It was hanging in his face a bit, but I could still see his face fairly clear. I wouldn't say super clear, like I couldn't see the wrinkles in his skin or anything, but he did have dark skin, not quite as dark as the rest of his hair. And he just he just stood there, and he was breathing like through his nose. And I wouldn't say snorting, but I could hear him breathing. And at that moment, when I realized what I'm seeing is this is really happening. About the only thing I could do, because I'm, now that I'm realizing this is really happening, I'm scared, man. I mean, I am totally scared, terrified. And I just put my hands up like this in like a hole. And I, like I said, Molly laughed at it when she heard it. I think I even said something, not that I expected him to understand what I was saying, but I was hoping he would understand this gesture. And I think I actually did say something like, "Whoa, big fella," or easy, big guy. I'm not meaning to mess up your day. And he's just looking at me, and I took 3 steps slowly backwards, and he didn't move. And I kind of turned a little bit. I didn't turn my back on him because I was afraid to, and I didn't have to, really. I could keep him kind of in my peripheral as I'm making my way. I'm like, I'm just going up back to my Jeep now. And I started to walk up the trail, and I didn't hear him following me. I started to walk a little faster the further I got away. And by the time I got back to my Jeep, I was probably in a pretty good jog. And for me, being old and fat, that's not easy to do. And I got to my Jeep and sat down. After I opened the door and sat down for a second to catch my breath. And I looked up, fully expecting him to be standing there in the tree line looking at me, but there was nothing. He wasn't there. And I just sat there for a minute, catching my breath, trying to process the whole freaking experience. And originally thinking, man, I'm never gonna say anything about this to anybody. And
now, what did this face look like? Because everybody's always want to know what the face looks like.
Well,
Like
he
his.
had, actually, he's better looking than me. He had really deep set eyes. I couldn't tell you from 40 feet away what color his eyes were. I just know they were deep set and dark. And at 40 feet, I couldn't even tell you if there was whites around his eye. I didn't see any whites around his eyes. Just very deep set, dark eyes, kind of set wide apart. Big nose, but a little flatter, but similar to my nose, you know. No nostrils downwards, not outwards. Little bit flatter. Big jaw, not much hair on the face.
You totally just described yourself.
Large jaw and just really thin lips that look like they went all the way across.
And
you know what
keep
I'm saying?
You keep going. You literally just described yourself.
I did
So
not.
if I'm going to ask you, are you sure you didn't see your face in a creek? Like,
yeah, there's a creek in the trees in midair, hon. Sure. So yeah, and that's, I mean, I'm like, you know, and to me, that didn't look anything like a gorilla, man.
it must be a thing.
I mean, I can understand why people say, oh, it looked kind of like human, but kind of like ape. I understand that, but that's not like any ape I've ever seen. It does. I mean, the closest you could say is it looked like maybe a primitive human species. That's
Right.
all I can tell you what it looked like.
Have you seen a photograph or a painting or something on the internet that resembles it?
Not really. Not
Right.
really. There's some that come kind of close, but not anything that looked exactly like that. And the reason why I got named Rasta is because I tried to like pick one that kind of looked a little bit like it and then draw hair on it because the hair wasn't long enough on
Like
photograph.
dreadlocks? 'Cause when
And
you
it
say
ended
Rasta-
up, yeah, well, see, that's the thing. It ended up looking like dreadlocks.
Because it wasn't. It was unkempt. That's what your hair naturally gets dreadlocks if you don't do anything with it.
Well, his hair was not dreadlocks. I'm
Right.
not, but what I drew ended up looking like Rick James, basically.
It did.
And so that's how he got the name Rasta, because of that drawing. But I have not seen one that I could say looked exactly like him. Yeah, something that comes a little bit close, but not exactly. No.
Oh, I wish we had the drone to pull up. I never knew you had it drawn.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Well,
It's unfortunate.
it's-
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. It's somewhere on my page. It's
There-
somewhere posted on my page.
There's someone that Daniela does it. What's his name? Larry Batson. He does they do a whole show on encounters, and he draws the Bigfoot face as the person describes it, and he usually does a really good job.
Yeah.
Now, when Kerry described his encounter, he mixed it with the body of that thing standing in the water. Remember that hoax that was standing in the water looking up? Park ranger took it apparently. He said that was the body, and then he showed another picture of what the face looked like, and it was a photograph of just like a Bigfoot in the trees. It was hard to make out, but you could see its face.
Yeah.
And yeah, the way he described it, it was like it was wearing a kabuki mask. He said it was terrifying looking.
Yeah.
That
Well,
would be terrifying looking.
I think, you know,
Hmm.
I mean, I think Rasta, for all intents and purposes, because I don't know if his real name or if he actually has a name. Maybe he does. I don't know.
Gary. His name's Gary.
But no, Gary's behind me. But I mean, I get I understand he was angry at me. But I can't say that the look on his face is what told me. It's just that they have a scary looking face.
Right.
Man. I
Sure.
mean, just naturally, you know. And I think it's just something that, you know, I was not prepared for it at all, man. I know a lot of people say they want to see one, and I mean, yeah, I don't blame them. I don't blame them. But I just warn people, okay, you want to see one, just be prepared to not be prepared when you see, especially if you see one up close, you know, and if it's a situation that is a little bit scary, just be prepared to not be prepared for what you're seeing. I think all this time going through and investigating this and thinking that, man, I hope I get to actually see one of these things one day. I think in my head, subconsciously, I was always thinking if the day ever came, I would see something that looked like friendly, like Harry in the Hendersons, or even like Patty, although
Right.
no matter what they do with that film, it still hasn't cleared enough for me to actually see the face that clear. But I think in the back of my head, I'm thinking that, and then the reality of it is just like really totally the opposite.
Right.
Well, anything that big, that close, and unexpected, and almost human would freak the hell out of anybody.
Oh, agree.
Yeah. Well, and then there's things that go through my mind afterwards, and this all occurs to me after the incident, is that, as I was walking down through that trail, I probably at least glanced in that direction, I don't know, several times, and never saw anything, right? Standing there. So it makes me wonder, once I jumped that deer and that deer ran off, why did he even draw attention to himself? Because he could have not done anything at all, and I would have never known he was there.
He could have. Was he like beside a tree line, just coming out of the tree line?
He was. We were all in the trees. I
Okay.
was in the forest. He was in the forest off to my right. There were trees all around. He could have easily hidden. So maybe
you caught him off guard too. Like he was and then like, whoa.
Or maybe he was after the deer and then he stopped when he saw you.
Oh, I definitely think he was stalking that deer. And that's probably why he just, with knee-jerk reaction, maybe that's another thing I could take to say that maybe that's why, because they're so close to us, maybe he just like a person would. It was just a knee-jerk reaction of his own to scream out of frustration and throw whatever hits a tree. I originally said it was a knot of wood because there was a pretty big knot laying at the base of that tree. Now, I don't know if that is exactly what he threw.
So, in other words, he was like, for F's sake, bang.
Right.
Yeah.
That kind of reaction.
You ass, you scared the deer.
Yeah. But I don't understand why. I could see it if it was just a knee-jerk reaction of his, but he could have just easily hidden in the trees, and I would have never known he was there. So I don't understand why it happened. Except for
if I was him, I would have come and punched you in the face.
You're
really lucky that I'm not Rasta.
Well, I'm just lucky that I don't know, and that's another thing that tells me that they are very intelligent. If that was a bear, I'd be dead. That bear would have attacked me.
Right.
Question: if it wasn't already mentioned, Molly, did you mention the baby cries? Joined a little late. Oh,
from a girl, Loretta.
Yeah.
So we haven't talked about in the past when we've had weird things happen about the baby cries, because you've sort of focused on the Rasta incident, but we also had like weird crap happen.
Oh, I've had all kinds of weird stuff.
Well, my whole marriage has been weird stuff, but I mean specifically when we've been camping. So when we were out at Palmer's Pond, and that time that I had the really messed up dreams. I mean, I haven't had messed up dreams in such a long time until that night when we saw like the weirdo. We heard the baby cry.
What sounded like a baby. I don't know if that's what it was.
Sounded like a baby. We should say that. It sounded like a baby. I don't know enough about animal husbandry to tell you, like, maybe it was a dodo bird, or
I don't know what it was. I don't think it was a rabbit.
Kind of bird or rabbit or
I don't think it was
I
don't think it was a rabbit or anything like that. But it could have been. Maybe, I'm not going to sit here and claim that I know every single sound every single animal makes, because a lot of them
sound like a little kid crying to
me. It sounded like a baby, man,
like
a human baby. It
Well, there
was
was
And then
weird.
we saw those bizarro lights that we were trying to figure out if they were fireflies, but they were too big and they were white.
Well, I eventually convinced myself that they were fireflies, but
I've convinced myself now. But
I
at the
don't
time,
I don't really think that they were fireflies myself. I don't know
no,
what they
I've
were.
convinced myself that we
Uh,
have. After our last time to Vandermark, when
But
we
they were white.
saw, yeah, the ones in Vandermark were too.
I don't remember them being white. They looked more
No, they were.
yellowish or greenish to me.
No, the ones really far away
I don't know.
looked more
Maybe.
white.
Maybe.
Yeah. So in that instance, we had Palmer Spawn the first time we'd heard that baby crying thing, and that was bizarro. And did we hear it at Vandermark? No.
No, I didn't hear a baby at Vandermark.
I thought I heard something.
You did. You said you heard something. I didn't hear it, but
Yeah, I remember hearing something.
oh, you said you heard the whistle,
the whistle.
but I didn't hear the whistle that time.
Yeah, there was a guy on Bigfoot Odyssey the other night, Texas Jack, his name was. He was talking about his first encounter, and it was a baby crying in near Sam Houston, and he said it changed direction, and he wanted to go and check it out because he thought maybe somebody had dropped off a baby in the woods. You know, somebody didn't.
Horrifying.
And then he said
That's a terrifying thought. Yeah.
the thing switched direction like 100 yards, and he's like, "Oh, that's weird."
Yeah.
His was an interesting story.
Well, you know, seriously, I would rather think that it's much more comforting, really, to think that that baby crying in the woods to me was actually possibly an infant Sasquatch instead of actually being a human baby for some reason crawling around the woods at 1:30 in the morning in the middle of nowhere.
Or it was trying to lure you in.
Oh, I never thought it was a baby ever.
I mean, because it did. It sounded like a human baby, but I'm like, nobody would have their baby out here. There's nobody camping near us. In fact, I don't think anybody
got one of our cats.
I don't even think there was. I don't think there was actually that many campers in there at the time when we were camping there. I think there was like maybe one person that was camped near the pond.
Around the pond itself, there were like 2 or 3 people. Yeah,
I don't remember
but
that many.
That pond is so far away from where we like to camp.
Ways away.
That a baby could not crawl that far. I mean, I guess it could.
And you wouldn't hear a baby crying from that distance either. This one sounded close.
No, it
sounded like it was right in the woods, not too far from us. But
I mean, we have to remember how we got our last cat. One of our last cat. Oh, it was our Orange Kitty was our last cat.
Yeah. What about the rock, Joe? I still think that was not a bird. There was no crow sounds in your video. That rock. Yeah, I don't know about the rock. I'm still not convinced it was a Sasquatch. I don't know what it was. I don't know where that rock came from.
It was in the middle of winter. There are no leaves on the trees.
Well, it wasn't in the It wasn't in the middle of winter. It was in April.
It was. There was snow on the ground, Joseph.
Right, but it wasn't the middle of winter. It was April.
And
there was still snow on the ground.
Of winter. Let's not get that twisted, people.
It's not the middle of winter.
2 nights ago, I wanted to turn the heat on in July.
April is pretty much the end of winter. I'll agree, but
there
no,
was snow on the ground. There
were
no leaves on the trees.
No.
I mean, there was no. Like.
Yeah. And I know people talk about how they've had rocks thrown at them by Sasquatch, and I believe it. I've had pine cones thrown at me by Sasquatch. I'm pretty damn sure that that's what they were that was throwing them. It was not people. I know that. Absolutely, I know that. And I've heard people being, rocks. I've never had a rock thrown at me. I can't say that I've ever had a rock thrown at me except for that one time. And yes, it was snowing, and it came from out of nowhere, from somewhere behind me. I don't know where it came from. I'm not convinced it was a Sasquatch because there was snow on the ground. And when I did look around in the general direction from where it had to have come from behind me, I saw no footprints whatsoever. And if it was a Sasquatch, I would think that I'd at least see some prints somewhere,
Did you go up on across the way and look up the hill to see if there was anything that way? I mean, it wasn't a very large rock.
No,
If it was a large entity, it probably could have chucked that thing pretty far.
I had it for a long time too. I still think I have it, but I don't know what I did with it. Yeah, it wasn't a huge rock either. And I don't know, just somebody told me, and I, it sounds feasible or plausible to me that, sometimes, birds and like crows, and I know Loretta says there's no crow sounds, but if a crow actually has it in his mouth, I don't know if they can crow when they have something in their mouth or not, but maybe a bird dropped it. I don't know. I have no idea. And that sounded plausible.
An Aesop's fable about the crow with something in its mouth. I think that's an Aesop's fable.
But I don't know about the rock. I cannot say what it was.
Now, Molly, what do you think that thing was that Joe saw then? If you don't believe in Sasquatch, I mean, that sounds pretty clear to me. I mean, it can't have been a bear. It can't have been his imagination. It can't have been a guy in a suit.
And it was not a guy in a suit.
No, and I don't think it was a guy in a suit. I don't think there was some guy like, I'm going to mess with Joe and wander around the woods in a suit. Now, see, this is where you're testing on whether or not I believe him.
And if it had been a guy in a suit, I wouldn't have had the reaction I had. I would have been like, dude, who are you trying to freaking kid here?
Yeah.
I would be like, well, so it's not that I want to call anyone a liar.
I don't lie to you.
No, generally speaking, no. And I know that there are people around who've seen or think they've seen something of that regard.
Right.
But I want to say to you, Joseph, like, how many seconds did you get a good stare at?
Well, the whole incident probably lasted at least 5 minutes.
No. How long did you stare at Rasta?
God, I don't know. Had to have been at least a minute or two.
So you're saying that
just
you
reaction
sat there for a minute and just stared at each other like you had a stare down.
Well, you're probably frozen.
We didn't have a stare down. I'm trying to process what I'm seeing.
And what do you think he's doing?
He's probably trying to decide if he wants to actually do anything to me or not.
Well, okay.
I don't know. How can I say what was he thinking? I don't know what he was thinking.
Yeah, I just think, okay, so I think that your timing may be skewed. And I think what you thought was a minute was probably like 10 seconds.
Maybe my timing is skewed, but I don't know.
Well,
I mean, it did happen a while ago.
Well, he has to get his hands up and say, hold on there, big boy, whatever it was. That takes...
Absolutely.
That's 10 seconds right there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
After he processes it.
Right. Okay, so we'll give him 15, 20 seconds now. All right. I'll give you that. I just am not entirely sure. I don't know. It's like trying to ask somebody, do you think so-and-so is lying? Well, I don't think they're lying. I just don't have any explanation as to, like, did he step on a poisonous mushroom and
I stepped on a poisonous mushroom and it made me hallucinate.
Poof came up, and I mean, I don't know.
That sounds more
his head and came to.
That sounds more unplausible than I actually saw a Sasquatch.
Yeah, mushrooms take 20 minutes to kick in, just from personal experience.
That's true, they do. You're right, and I saw it in a movie once. That's tough. I don't know. I don't know. Again, I don't think he's lying. I think he thinks he saw something.
I didn't.
Well, I don't know what it was.
And for all intents and purposes, I don't know what else I would have called it besides a Sasquatch. There's nothing else out there that...
Yeah, in New York, you're right. In New York, there's no bear that's like that. I mean, they're just... Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be one of the more clearer accounts that I've heard. I mean, there's a lot of accounts that you can say, well, I mean, it could have been something else, but that's pretty definitive. Definitive.
Absolutely. I can't forget it. I can't forget it. And I can't say that I dream about him. I don't. I probably had a nightmare or two at first.
That'd be creepy.
Right afterwards, but I mean, like, I don't fall asleep and dream about it, but I can recall what I saw with crystal clarity every single time. I mean, that's how it affected me. And it's, the damnedest thing about it is it was such a freak thing. It was such a freak thing. If I hadn't have been out there that day to go get my hiking stick, who knows if I'd have gone my entire life without actually seeing one.
But I thought you said you'd seen one before, like partially.
Well, I caught something out of my peripheral. Now you're talking about a totally different experience that I had in a separate place here. But something out of the peripheral. I'm not going to say, oh, that was definitely a Sasquatch. I think maybe it was. And the situation was pretty odd, but I can't say no. I've never had a clearer sighting than that one. Ever.
Now, were you afraid to go into the woods after that? Did you have PTSD and all that kind of stuff? No.
I already had PTSD before that.
All right.
Before that, but no, I was not afraid to. I still go back out there.
Same place.
Yeah, despite it all, I still want to see him again. I kind of want to be under different circumstances, and maybe from a little further away. But yeah, I would have no problem. I would love to be able to see him again, or another one, But who knows if I ever will? I mean, it took 43 years of investigating it before I ever got a good, clear sighting.
Yeah, the places that I go, if I'm in the woods, like 2 miles in, and if I saw one, and then you have to make that 2-mile walk out to your truck, I don't know how I would react. I know you're not supposed to run, but man, I mean, you'd probably be frozen anyway. I've been chased before by gangs of people. And, I've ran, but it's like your legs are like jelly. It's scary.
Yeah.
But something
Did you
like
say you've been chased by gangs of people?
Yeah, when I was a kid,
Oh, okay. I thought you meant now. I was like, are people chasing you?
No. Just like, when you're a kid and you're chased by
the
local tough guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that thing about don't run thing, I'm not sure that it applies the same way to Sasquatch
as it does like a bear,
as it does to wild animals, right? Because they're much more intelligent. They're at least as intelligent as we are. It could have been a dogman. Yeah, no, it was not.
Joseph doesn't believe in dogman.
No, I don't. Sorry, I don't. I have no proof of dogman. I've never seen a dogman track. I have nothing that tells me that dogman exists. So, and I'm not putting down people who say they've seen them. I've never seen one, and I know definitely that was not a dogman.
Yeah,
dogmen like hunch over. Like when I think of dogmen, I would think it's like a dog with a man's face and a dog body. So why are they on all two?
It's like a werewolf, I think. This is what they're talking about. When I hear people talking about it, it's like an upright dog.
Yeah.
That's
and I love werewolf movies, man.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I love werewolf movies.
Oh, yeah.
Watch every single one of them, but I don't believe werewolves are real. Let me see one, and I hope I never do, but if I saw one, then I'd believe it.
Same with vampires, right? Like, has anyone ever seen a vampire?
Absolutely. I've seen weird stuff in the woods, but it's stuff that, I don't know what it was, and I don't usually talk about it because it's bad enough that I say that I've seen a Sasquatch, to tell people that, well, I've actually seen some other stuff too that I can't quite describe or comprehend. Then you're delving into yeah, it's really crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Well, I mean, anything outside of the normal realm of what one see it in the woods, of what people think I'd see a bear, I'd see a beaver, I'd see
well,
another
it,
person. I mean,
it's
when you
like
start to throw that crap in there, people are
yeah,
like, "Okay, dude, what
hmm
were you smoking that day?"
absolutely, yeah, sure. I mean, and just like I posted earlier today on my page, I posted a thing for Star Trek fans of all things. Even though it's a Bigfoot page, but I posted it applies, and it is according to Karen Cathaw's law, first law of metaphysics: nothing unreal exists. So, and when you keep that in mind, there are things in this world that are just they're just unreal, and they don't exist. But having said that, what if you see something that's not supposed to be real, but you know you saw it, right?
Now, did you tell your wider family about this experience, or just Molly?
About Rasa. I haven't told a lot of my family.
They think he's nuts.
Because I'm just crazy old Uncle Joe.
Yeah.
I mean, they love me, but I haven't described the encounter to any of them
His sister would be like, "Oh,
because
hell no."
they're not they I mean, Sasquatch and all that stuff isn't even in their wheelhouse.
Right.
No. No.
Yeah, most people think that there's like one Bigfoot.
Well, I think less do now, but yeah, it used to
Right.
be, sure.
Yeah, there's one like one Loch Ness monster. There's one
Right.
Bigfoot up in the Pacific Northwest or something.
Right. And if there is an actual Loch Ness monster, and if it is like a surviving species of some sort of plesiosaur or something like that, there'd have to be more than one of them.
Right.
Like
Well,
they've reproduced, right? I mean, you'd have to. Otherwise, Nessie has been around for what, 50 years? Is that possible? I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't think I believe in anything else apart from possibly Bigfoot. I mean, ghosts maybe. I don't believe in
Ghosts,
Nessie.
maybe.
Aliens, definitely.
Aliens.
I think alien life does exist somewhere.
I'm with you.
I think it might have
I don't know
even.
if they've been here, but the recent footage.
It's even possible.
Yeah.
That they've been here, and yeah, I feel like they probably have been. I mean, our technology has leaped like exponentially, and there's no explanation for how fast we advance technology other than we had outside help, either by getting it accidentally and then reverse engineering it, or it was given to us on purpose.
Yeah, Joe Rogan had an interesting theory. He was talking to Abby Martin, and he said maybe aliens are time travelers and they're coming back from the future to check on us because they have evolved so much. They've discovered time travel, and that's them coming back to check on us so we don't blow ourselves up and change history.
Okay, I want to address a question here from Kim. She says, but if you seen a Sasquatch, how can you say you don't believe in dogman, rake, or werewolves? Okay, and I can answer that very easily.
What's a rake?
Rake is just pop culture.
Yeah.
Oh.
First of all, number one, dogman is something supernatural. I don't believe in the supernatural. Werewolves, etc. A rake, as Cornell said, is like urban legend type thing.
Yeah, like a Slender Man.
And also because there is precedence in nature and in evolution for Sasquatch to exist. There is no precedence in evolution or nature for something like a dogman to exist. As far as the rake goes, yeah, I'm not even. That's not in my wheelhouse. But so yeah, that's how I can That's how I can say that, because I've seen a Sasquatch. There is precedence in for a Sasquatch to exist, whereas I don't see any precedence in evolution for a bipedally walking canine species.
Yeah, there's room in the evolutionary tree for something like a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anybody wants to ask some questions? We're up. Oh my God, we're up to an hour. Anybody wants to shoot some questions out? And we already had 20 minutes before this, before I realized the live button wasn't clicked yet. So you guys still go out researching together, or do you ever go out by yourself, Joe?
Well, yeah, and I call it investigating, because I'm not a researcher, really.
Right.
I mean, researchers do so much more than what I do. What I do is I investigate. If somebody tells me, hey, somebody saw a Sasquatch in this area, I'll go investigate to see if there's anything to it. And yes, so yeah, I still go out. Yeah. In fact, I was planning on going back to the same area we just camped in and heard all those weird noises, do further investigation. I don't know if I'm going to make it this next weekend or not. And it's looking like
I may have jury duty.
She may have jury duty. Yeah. And the 10-day forecast looks like it's calling for probably some rain. And I hate it when I can't get a break on the rain in camping, it seems.
Right, this year's been pretty bad. I get out of jury duty because I'm not a citizen, so that's great.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah,
I'm actually excited about the process. I want to.
It must be fun.
I want to go through the process.
Yeah.
Once, and then I'll be like, check. Okay, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, it's one of those things that comes up on Facebook. Have you ever done 10 of these things? You know, it's always up there with getting arrested, have done jury duty, gotten high, all these different things.
Yeah, I've close to gotten arrested, but I was like the last when I was during my protesting years in DC, and I was protesting, and I was one of the people creating a chain around the White House, holding hands, and they started arresting people like crazy to my right, and I was like, yes, I'm gonna get arrested for protesting. This is so cool. And then they stopped like two people before me. They were like, all right, everybody else just go home. And I'm like, no, arrest me.
You were protesting outside the White House?
Yeah.
Do you mind me asking what for?
It was for the Keystone Pipeline.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't for Bigfoot.
Yeah. I don't want the government to know about Bigfoot. I don't really care.
Well, according to a lot of people now, the government does know about Bigfoot, and they're hiding it. And
they might know something.
Possible.
The only explanation for that I would possibly believe is that because I do think our government is run by money, it's the almighty dollar, and I think if the timber industry was like, shh, don't tell anybody, because that's gonna, like the spotted owl. Remember the spotted owl came? They had to stop doing certain activities in certain forests.
Cost them billions.
Yep, it cost them billions, and I would not be surprised if you came back to me later and said, well, the federal government knew, but they didn't want anyone else to know because it would kill the timber industry, and the timber industry pays a lot of money to the federal government for lobbying.
And the state park industry. People wouldn't want to bring their kids to the state park and go camping.
No, right?
I wouldn't.
I go for the timber industry more than anything, because they would stand to lose a lot of money. Opinion on tree structures. I think that it's possible that some of the tree structures out there are actually being done by Sasquatch. I by no means think all of the things that people see and point out are done, because nature does some weird stuff randomly. But I myself have seen structures that I know that just aren't a random thing. They had to have been built, and that leaves either one of two things, people or Sasquatch, because those are the only two things out there that would have hands.
Yeah.
Well, and I've been with you in which we've sat there at the bottom, at the base of a tree, and we've looked up to see, tree structures, and we've gone, okay, where is that tree? Like, where in that knocks of that other tree, where is that tree exist? And we've been like, okay, oh my gosh, way over there. And so that to me has always been fairly strange. But I always knock it up to high winds. But there's been times when we've seen things and seen those tree structures, and I'm like, that'd be a hell of a wind. And how about the accuracy to take it over and like hit it this way? But Joseph will tell you that I'm actually really great about finding tree structures and then in turn debunking them. Would you agree, Joseph? Give me that.
Well, I think it's important if
The
anybody's
answer
actually
is a yes or no question.
Yeah, and I think it's important for every researcher to try to debunk something before actually
Right.
claiming that it's something done by Sasquatch.
Yeah, some of the Facebook posts are ridiculous. Some of the stuff people post.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
I've seen those.
That's what I do all the time. When I see something strange out there, I don't automatically jump to Sasquatch. I have to study it. I have to look at it and say, okay, is there an alternate explanation for how this could happen?
Right.
Now, if I cannot come up with that alternate explanation, then I'll go that, okay, possibly this is a Sasquatch activity.
Yeah.
I think we already covered this old tree, but maybe you come in late.
The lights were I mean, they were far away and they were high up. Like not like,
Oh, you're talking about the time in the Adirondacks. I think they want to know about the time in Palmer's Pond. There was actually a light around the tent. We were both in the tent, and we both saw this. I could see through the fabric this glow, right? And I'm like, what is that? And then we saw it through the front, and it was about, I don't know, size of a dime, maybe the size of a quarter, from what we were seeing. And it moved to the front, and then it moved around, and it kind of circled the tent. And it got out front, I think, again, and then it kind of just faded or disappeared.
No, I remember actually.
I don't know what it was.
Go away.
Oh, I don't remember seeing that.
I was staring at the screen intently because I was like, "What the heck?"
It seemed to me to be like it was there and then wasn't.
For a lightning bug, it was white.
So I don't know what it was.
We had heard the baby cry earlier in the evening. That was the night I had the really crazy dream about people walking through our campsite. So much so that I woke up and I said to Joseph, like, people walked through here last night. It was totally crazy and I was totally frightened. And he said, why didn't the dog bark? Because the dog barks at a bug farting.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. I looked over at her. She was asleep. You were asleep. I was frozen with fear. I don't know what happened. But somebody walked through here and they were very quiet. And Joseph, and it was funny because at Palmer's Pond, they had just regraded the road. And Joseph said, okay, if there was somebody here last night, I mean, it was so real to me. It was, and this dream is so memorable to me. It's so memorable. To this day, I'm totally freaked out by it. But I ran down to where and now here's where I know it was a dream, because I knew it from a tent where they walked down the road. Well, I could never have known that, right? Unless I guessed on trajectory. But I walked down there and sure enough, there was no footprints or anything. And I was like, oh, it was a complete and total dream. But it was really that whole night was just sort of bizarro world with the baby crying, the light, and then Molly and her crazy ass real dream. Like if you said to me, was that real today? I'd have to, if I didn't go investigate where there'd be footprints, I'd be like, yes, somebody totally walked through our campsite last night. Like they totally walked through. That's how real it felt to me. So,
and didn't you guys have someone walk up to your tent, or was that someone else?
No, I've never actually had anything walk up to my tent.
Have a heart attack. I would have a heart attack.
Yeah. I mean, I've had small animals walk around my tent. I know that's what it was too, but I've never heard anything that I would say, that's possibly a Sasquatch.
And what is it about a tent when you're in the tent you feel safe? You're like,
Yeah, it's
I'm
it's a
safe.
false
I'm
sense of
safe.
security.
I'm safe in the tent.
Yeah, it's a false sense of security, but hey, it works.
Yeah, well, when I was in the tent, Dave always sleeps outside because he wants to see what's coming up on him, and I understand that totally. I just don't like bugs,
Right.
so that's why I sleep in a tent. But when I heard that thing walk around my tent, I mean, if I was outside, I wouldn't have come near me, I don't think. But that is a scary feeling when you hear someone walking around outside your tent and you know that there's no one around.
Absolutely, absolutely. Plus, you can't see it, so that makes it even scarier.
Yeah, it's like Blair Witch syndrome. What you can't see, you make up your brain paints in what it looks like, and that's what I did. And then, that was quite kind of terrifying.
Yeah, if I heard something walk outside my tent, I would. I just stay inside and put my head on the covers and say someday it'll go away soon.
That's what I did. Exactly what I did.
I do the same exact thing. Same exact thing.
Yeah. And if I was by myself, I don't know what I would have done. Thank God I had Dave to yell at when he was in the tent next to me, you know? So I thought, okay, if I yell here, it'll either run away or at least the guys will get up and there'll be three of us.
Right.
Anyway. Any other questions? We're up on hour and 10 minutes. I'm going to wrap it up soon. Get any more questions before we leave? Now, you guys got any more plans to head out? You said you were going to go next week, but the rain looks like crap.
Yeah.
Maybe if she doesn't end up with jury duty, if they don't pick her for some reason, we'll probably go. And again, it depends on what how the forecast develops for those days.
Yeah. If not then the weekend after will be fine too.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put. I'll actually put the link to your site in the description so people can click on that and go over there and subscribe. And you have two different types of shows, don't you? You have the interview type and then the investigation type, right? If I remember correctly.
We have New York Sasquatch Live with Joe and Molly on Wednesdays at 7, which I try to line up guests for it, and but pretty much both shows are really we like to stick to the topic of research and Sasquatch, people that have had experiences and etc.
And it's also really a chronicle of me drinking one glass of wine and finishing a bottle within a show.
Yeah.
So it's always kind of fun to watch me progress in that regard.
I used to do that, but after a couple of drinks, you can hear it in my voice. So I stopped drinking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, which is why I'm sober to your show. You're welcome.
And sometimes we'll do like, and on Sasquatch Speaks, which is on Fridays at 8.
Right. That's the other one I was thinking of.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll do the thing that a lot of podcasters have jumped on and I'll put the link in chat and see if anybody wants to come on the show and tell about their encounter or talk about whatever they want to. And I do want to address something that somebody had said earlier about making a claim with the Dogman thing. I don't say that people who say they've seen dogmen are lying. I've never seen one and I don't believe in them, but I don't say that the people that say they've seen or encountered dogmen are lying.
No, I don't think they're lying either. I think they saw something. That's what I say to you.
And that's what I have to say.
I think you saw something.
I'm not. Yeah. I do not belittle anybody's experience.
No.
Just because I haven't experienced it doesn't mean it's not your experience. And I keep an open mind. But also, when I say everybody should keep an open mind, but that doesn't mean being gullible and just believe in everything.
Right.
Right. But I will never belittle somebody for an encounter that they say they've had ever.
So you know what my dream interview is? Do you want to know who I want to interview? Sax Squatch.
Oh boy. What, the saxophone playing Sasquatch?
Yes.
Yeah.
That drives me nuts.
Yeah. You know, some people say that, man.
Have
But
you seen his version of Baker Street? It's good.
Oh, is that actually a thing? I thought it was just a GIF thing. I didn't think it was a real thing.
No, he has a whole YouTube channel.
Oh.
You name it, he plays it, and he's like a one-man band, and that I'm assuming maybe I shouldn't go there, he or she
I didn't know
have
that.
even like a drum machine sort of set up, and they like start that off, and it's like, you know, I mean, it's a whole thing. It's fantastic.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was just like the See, that's why we banned it on our on our Facebook page, because it was people just kept reposting it, or like, you know, the Bigfoot hide and seek championship meme.
Yeah.
So we banned all that stuff because we wanted to make it about research and experiences.
Yeah, and I understand that. The only thing I want to interject on that is, I know a lot of people, you know, they get irritated by stuff like that, but you know, when it comes to me, after all this time,
I'm have a sense of humor.
I'm at the point to where I love it all, man. I mean, I think sometimes, and it's just my opinion, I think sometimes some people get so uptight about Sasquatch that they take all the joy out of it, out of the mystery. Yeah. And so I'm about it all. I'm about the entertainment part of it, and the research part. I love talking to people that are out there researching. Even people like me that call themselves just investigators. You know, I love listening to people's encounters. You know, I like it all. I like the funny stuff. My favorite damn thing about the entertainment side is the freaking Progressive commercial with Daryl, man.
Oh, right.
I mean, I find that absolutely.
My name's Daryl.
Wait a minute, what'd you call me? And he's looking at his feet, you know. He's like, my name is Daryl. Yeah, you know, I find that absolutely freaking hilarious, man. Yeah. And it's funny because it's like, we call him Bigfoot, right?
Right.
They're intelligent. I mean, that's kind of insulting, you know, to be named after one of your body parts. Be like calling somebody big ears.
Right. True.
So, but yeah, I mean, I love it all, man. I love it all, and you know, I'm serious to a point of investigating. When I'm investigating something, yeah, then I'm serious about what I'm doing, you know. But all the rest of it all goes into it, man, and it's just, you know. And look, when it comes right down to it, this has been a 43-year long hobby. You know, it's not my profession. You know, so yeah, I'm just, and that's all I can tell everybody, man. Just, you know, enjoy it all, man. And just, you know, don't be so serious about it that you just take all the enjoyment out of it, you know. Right. There's got to be some joy in it, you know.
Agreed.
Well, people go over and check out. I have a hard time remembering this. Western. You go ahead.
Western New York Bigfoot Investigation Group, and that's
he changed his name last week, and so I don't even know what it is.
That's both the Facebook page and the YouTube page.
It's just you two guys, right?
It's just us.
He has other. Well, actually, you have other investigators.
Actually, I do have one. He's part of the one. I like the way Mogion says it. The Win Big group. Instead of Whiny Big. Right. And his name is boom, it just popped out of my head. Thomas Newell.
Oh, I've heard that name before.
And he lives over here near us.
He lives west of us in Chautauqua County.
Chautauqua, which by the way is a beautiful lake if anyone needs to come.
Or Tim, I'm sorry, I said Thomas. Tim Newell.
Yeah.
And he's a researcher out there in Chautauqua County. So yeah.
Yes, and I do think they should be called big package.
Hmm.
Big pack. That's what
Who?
Papa said. That's what Papa said. It's
Oh,
true.
Papa Craig.
Yeah.
I think they should be called Big Pack Age.
Yeah.
Well, I got to go grab some milk for my coffee in the morning before the store shuts. Well, thanks very much, guys, for coming
Thank
on.
you very much.
Thanks for having us, man. Absolutely. I love talking to you all the time.
All right, guys. I will talk to you all soon.
All right,
Absolutely.
thanks.
Just hang around for a second, guys.
Okay.
Okay.